In this video, we're going to look at a few examples of sequences that are divergent, and we're going to rigorously show that they are divergent. There are some sequences that we've already looked at that I may have mentioned are divergent, but we've never proved that they are. We know how to prove that a sequence converges, but how do you prove a sequence diverges? The good answer is there's actually lots of ways to do it, and most of them are quite intuitive because the main strategy of proving that a sequence doesn't converge, i.e. it diverges, is to simply show that it fails to satisfy one of the results about convergent sequences. So I have quite a lot of videos at this point about consequences or results, theorems about convergent sequences. If we can show a sequence fails to satisfy one of them, then it cannot converge and it therefore diverges. Before we go into that, let's actually look at the formal definition of divergence. And the way that we're going to get that is by negating the definition of convergence, which is just below me there. There it is. It's right there. There we go. The definition of convergence. We've seen it a million times before. We need to negate this, okay? And we're going to get a nice actual formal definition of divergence. So we have this right here. There exists an epsilon greater than 0, such that for all capital N in the natural numbers, there exists a lowercase n greater than or equal to it, such that the distance between an and alpha is greater than or equal to epsilon. Notice how I've done that. I've changed all of the for rules into there exists, and all of the there exists into for rules, and all I've done aside from that is this last statement on the end. Once again, I've just done the kind of opposite condition. Instead of the distance between an and alpha being less than epsilon, the opposite of that almost is it's greater than or equal to epsilon. Now, this is the negation of saying that a sequence converges to a particular alpha. So just because something doesn't converge to a particular value, it doesn't mean that it doesn't converge at all. So there's an extra bit to this. For the sequence, for example, 1 over n does not converge to the number 5, yet it still converges, right? It converges to 0. So it's not enough for us to just say this, right? We need this to be true for all alpha, okay? So for every single alpha in the real numbers, what I've just written needs to be true. That's for a sequence not converging to anything, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So I just need to add for all alpha in the real numbers to the beginning of this. So this is the definition of divergence, okay? So it's divergence means that a sequence fails to converge to any number, okay? If a sequence doesn't converge to the number 5, but it converges to the number 1, you don't say that it diverges. So we need it to be true for all alpha in the real numbers, the following statement, okay? Now, you can have a look at this statement and you can think about why it might be true, or try and visualize it, maybe try and draw a picture, like how we've previously drawn a sort of almost a graph or a diagram of a sequence converging, and we've looked at alpha, and we've looked at like alpha plus epsilon and alpha minus epsilon. You can try to draw a similar picture here to understand it. But what I will say is when we do an example, hopefully this will make a bit more sense. So we don't need, in order to show divergence, we do not need to do this. We don't need to do the same sort of methodology as proving that a sequence converges and finding what your capital N is and stuff like that. You can, but I'm going to show you an easier way. Here's an example. Imagine that we have the sequence that we've dealt with many times before, which is the sequence that alternates between -1 and 1, -1 and 1. That's -1 to the power of n. The question is to show that this sequence is divergent, i.e. it doesn't converge to anything. I've already probably said informally that this sequence does not converge. I've probably said that. And hopefully you can see on an intuitive level why it doesn't converge. It doesn't look like it converges. If a sequence alternates between -1 and 1, -1 and 1, it's not like honing in on a particular number. It's not getting arbitrarily close to a particular real number. So there's some intuition. We should expect this to diverge. We should expect it to not converge, but let's actually show it. What we're going to do, and this is a strategy that is used a lot, is we're going to do a proof by contradiction. If I am able to assume that this sequence is convergent, then I can use all of the theorems, all of the results that I know about convergent sequences, which by this point is quite a lot. We've got lots of results about convergent sequences, all sorts of things. So proof by contradiction seems to be a very logical thing to do. It unlocks all of these results that I can't otherwise use. So let's begin, for the sake of contradiction, by supposing that it's convergent. So I've just written that down. Now the question is, which results should we use? Well, let me just make an observation. And by the way, there's a few different ways of doing this. So I'm not even pulling anything crazy out of thin air right now. There's actually a few ways of dealing with this and showing why this leads to some sort of contradiction. I'm just going to do one of several. So let me just notice something. Let's notice that a sub n plus 1 is equal to minus 1 to the power of n plus 1, which is equal to minus 1 to the power of n, which is equal to minus a sub n. So in other words, a sub n plus 1, the n plus 1th term in the sequence, is always equal to minus the nth term in the sequence. Again, hopefully this should make sense, because of course, if we're alternating between minus 1 and 1, then all you have to do to get from one term to the next is multiply by minus 1. So it should not be too surprising. Now, in actually just my previous video, we derived a result about comparing a sub n plus k to a sub n. They have the same limit if they are convergent. So if an converges, then a n plus 1 will converge to the same number. We've already proven that, so we're going to use it. So I'm able to say that the limit as n approaches infinity of a sub n plus 1 is equal to the limit as n approaches infinity of minus a sub n. Okay, I'm only allowed to do this because the sequences converge. Okay, and I'm also using what you call the scalar product rule here with the minus. Okay, so I'm allowed to use that. And now what I can do is I can say, because I've supposed that an converges to alpha, then again, an plus 1 has to converge to alpha. We've already proven this. So we have that alpha is equal to minus alpha. Okay. Now, obviously, that means that alpha is 0. Now, that's not a problem yet. So if this thing does converge, if the sequence minus 1 to the n does converge, it has to converge to 0. That's the only number that it can converge to. And to finish off the proof by contradiction, we need to show that this also doesn't work either. So it doesn't work for any alpha in the real numbers, essentially. This is where we're going to use the quantifier definition of divergence. And that says that for all alpha in the real numbers, there exists an epsilon greater than 0, such that blah, 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 blah. So in order to show that I'm satisfying the condition, I'm just going to choose epsilon to be 1/2. And you'll see exactly what happens if I do that. So choose epsilon to be 1/2. Now, let's notice something. The distance between an and alpha, which we've concluded has to be 0, is clearly the number 1, right? Because an can only be 1 or minus 1, and we're taking the absolute value of it. So this is 1. But because of the definition of divergence, hopefully you can agree that actually this is satisfied. Because indeed, if I just choose an arbitrary capital N, so let capital N just be any natural number, clearly for all n greater than or equal to that capital N, the distance between an and 0 is indeed greater than or equal to epsilon, which I've chosen to be 1/2. So what I've done is I have shown that there does indeed exist an epsilon greater than 0, such that for all capital N in the natural numbers, there exists a lowercase n greater than or equal to capital N, such that the distance between the nth term and the limiting value alpha is bigger than or equal to that epsilon. We have done that. So maybe, I mean, it's still conceptual, it's still difficult, but maybe that shines a little bit more light on the quantifier definition of divergence. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see the whole big picture there. What I've done is I've kind of half used the quantifier definition, but I've not worried about the for all alpha. by me setting this up as a contradiction, it allows me to whittle it down to just alpha having to be 0. So then I don't need to deal with all of the other possible values of alpha. If I did want to deal with all the other possible values of alpha, that's fine. But then that's when you have to bring in the triangle inequality and stuff like that. And that's very, in my experience for students, that's very confusing for them. So I like this way very much. Hey there guys, I'm just editing and I sort of watched this back and realized maybe I didn't make it clear enough. Just to explain the conclusion of that proof and why this sort of leads to a contradiction. The reason it leads to a contradiction is because we began by assuming that the sequence was convergent, but then we ended up proving that for the only possible thing it could converge to, it does not converge to that. So in other words, it's divergent for all alpha. That's the conclusion. So it's a contradiction because the sequence simultaneously converges and diverges, which is not possible. Let's look at one more example here. Imagine we have a new sequence Bn where the nth term is 2 to the power of n for all n in the natural numbers. The question again is to prove that this sequence also diverges. So our strategy this time, we're not even going to use the definition of divergence because it's too clunky here. Of course it's possible, but there's much easier ways of doing that. And again, the strategy that we're going to mostly be using for showing that something is divergent is, again, it's just to show that it fails to satisfy a condition that all convergent sequences satisfy. So again, we'll start with a proof by contradiction, because proof by contradiction is very powerful because it allows us to suppose that it is convergent, and that allows us to start using all of these results that we've derived about convergent sequences. So as you can see, we've supposed that Bn is convergent, which means the limit as n goes to infinity of Bn is some beta in the real numbers. Now, let's do a similar thing to last time. So we can notice that Bn plus 1 is 2 to the power of n plus 1, which is 2 multiplied by 2 to the n, which is 2 times Bn. So that tells us that Bn plus 1 is equal to 2 times Bn. Taking the limit on both sides, because of course we're supposing that Bn is a convergent sequence, so we're allowed to do this. We have the limit as n goes to infinity of Bn plus 1 equals the limit as n goes to infinity of 2 times Bn. Now, using the scalar product rule, as we did last time, we can take the 2 to the outside and put it there. And we can, of course, use the fact that Bn plus 1 as n goes to infinity converges to the same thing that Bn does. Okay, and so what we have is that beta is equal to 2 beta, which of course tells us that beta is equal to 0. So what we're saying so far is we have the sequence 2 to the n. So in other words, the sequence that doubles each time, starting on the number 2, converges to 0. Now, does that make any sense at all? Well, of course not. That's plainly a contradiction. We have a sequence that starts on 2 and it's increasing. So it gets bigger every single time and it converges to 0. It gets arbitrarily close to 0. The sequence that doubles every time. Okay, yeah, sounds good to me. Of course not. That is a contradiction. So we've shown that we have a limit that clearly doesn't make any sense. Therefore, the sequence Bn, 2 to the n, clearly diverges. Now, some of you may have noticed that there is another way of doing the question that we just did that's a little bit more straightforward, which you would absolutely be within your right to do. And that is the following. We've proven in a previous video that all convergent sequences are bounded. So all we need to do is we can still do our proof by contradiction. We can still suppose that 2 to the n is convergent, but then we can just show that it's unbounded. And we know by taking the contrapositive of convergence implies boundedness, that is unboundedness implies divergence. Then if we are able to show that the 2 to the n sequence is unbounded, then it's divergent. You don't even necessarily need to do it as a contradiction. Just show that 2 to the n is unbounded. It does not satisfy the definition of boundedness. And there we are. Boom. Bob's your uncle. So that's another way of doing it too, that again exploits a nice property about convergent sequences. Now, in future videos, what we'll see is there is a sort of other way. There's a completely separate way of showing that something diverges. So there's a particular type of divergence called divergence to infinity. If you can show a sequence diverges to infinity, then it means it diverges. So we can also deal with that in some cases, like the 2 to the n one. That doesn't work for a bounded sequence. So it would work for example 2, but not for example 1. But we'll get to that in another video. As far as proving divergence goes, hopefully you've got a good idea of how you would go about doing it now. As always, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.